So Pepper, I am so excited, as I've shared with our audience, to have you finally in the studio with us.
I'm delighted.
This is a long overdue conversation. We tried to get it done in 2025, but Happy New Year, 2026.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
So let's begin with you just introducing yourself in terms of the work you do. I asked you earlier, what do you call yourself?
Well, today I am a cultural insights strategist and trust steward grounded in Black humanity. But for 30 years, I have been helping large companies understand Black people. I was a Black American consumer market researcher, and I loved it. I loved it. I wrote 3 books about Black people, 3 Black insights books, and then we had the dismantling of DEI, the weaponization of DEI, and the demonization of Black and brown people. So I have been told by clients and some colleagues, you need to remove the Black.
Absolutely.
You can't show up with the Black. And I said, and what do I do when I show up in this brown skin? So then what do we do? But people who say that talking about Black exclusively is not inclusive is really what they really are doing is erasing identity.
Absolutely.
It's our identity, and we're course correcting history. And I said, I'm not going to be a part of that.
But let's pause with that. They're doing that. Well, really, they're just taking us back to where it had always been, which is the dominant culture dominates, and then you fall in line with that. But you were talking about the demise of DEI, helping you to shift gears, but really you made that transition prior to the most recent.
No, I've been transitioning for the last couple of years, and I wasn't sure what to do. I was like, because I don't want to give up all the work that I've done, and I am not going to erase myself. But one of the things I started doing was following some of the challenges that are happening, that are impacting businesses and impacting communities. And we are in this truth abandonment era.
Now, what does that mean?
It's people are abandoning telling the truth. And when you abandon truth, then trust collapses. And so I have noticed that there is an increase in people talking about soft skills: trust, truth, clarity, courage, empathy. That's been increasing, particularly in this era of Trump.
Yes.
Now it's always been that way, where people talked about those soft skills, but it's just been a lot more
they've been compromised and undermined. But I want to go back to your description of your responsibilities or what you have done in your life. And I think it's important for us because there are a lot of people out there listening who are thinking, well, why do you have to have something special to talk about Black folks, right? Don't they buy hair products like us? And don't they shop in the same stores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But I think it's important that we understand that each group of people has their own set of special little things.
Absolutely.
Just like your sons, you may have 3, and yes, they have the same parents, but they're each different in terms of their likes and their dislikes.
Well,
so it's the family of humanity, but at the same time.
Well, okay, couple things. Black people are different. Language has become the cultural identifier. From a marketing standpoint, marketers would just roll us in with mainstream and believe that they have a connection with us because we speak English. My response is, yes, I speak English, but are you talking to me? Number 2, Black culture is mainstream culture. It's global culture. We influence the world.
Yes.
And our culture comes from our history. It is the most important insight to understand about us. And so, out of this history of slavery, post slavery, and ongoing discrimination, we've had to perform under this, what I call RIC, RIIC. We've had to be resilient, we've had to be industrious, we've had to be innovative and creative. And out of that comes our wonderful culture that has all this swag and love and fun and joy that everybody wants to copy. And it has been the thing that has sustained us as well. We are still here despite all of the things that America has done to prevent our progress or to slow our progress or to stop our progress.
I have just got to input this. You made me think of my father when he would see like an older Black gentleman who was probably just a very hardworking man, and he was in his polyester suit, and he was in probably, well, back then they still had leather shoes, but you know, whatever it wasn't the suit. And he would say, look at him, look at Dapper Man. And he would say, it's because it was about his energy and his pride and how he walked. And he said, yeah, that's how the other folks look at us. And they're like, what makes him like feel so powerful and empowered when they look at him? And I said, well, what does? He said, love of self.
Love of self. And what I call, we talk about badge value. It's not something that we own, but you know, we tend to, many of us, we buy luxury cars,
yes,
and jewelry and shoes and clothes and all of those things to create how we want to be perceived.
Yes.
Because we have been told every year, every day, that we have no value in some way. We've been told we have. When you tell people that over and over again, they start believing it. But many of us know in our hearts of hearts that we are badasses.
Yeah, with actions to support that statement they make or whatever.
Absolutely. So the suit, the car, when we walk out of our dwellings, the stereotyping is on. And so we want to break that stereotype of having less value. So I just love the way Black men walk.
Me too.
I love it. I love the way they walk.
Give me that.
If they don't have anything else, Black men are cool, and nobody does it like the brothers.
Yeah.
But all of that stems from treatment in history, and a desire to want to be seen. When you are seen, when you're understood, then you could trust. That's where my work comes around the trust steward, is helping leaders really understand their customers better than anyone. I heard Mark Pritchard, he is the Chief Global Officer of Procter Gamble.
Yeah.
He said that, and I loved it. It takes knowing your customer to a whole nother level. It's deeper understanding, it's accountability, it's building trust. I absolutely do that. So as a trust steward, we help them understand their customers and people. Society needs to understand us better than anyone else so we can have better relationships.
Hold that thought, because I want to interrupt you before you get deep into that. I want to go back to you saying, because Black people are different. And I don't want to offend anyone, right? Because all peoples, are different. But there are some things that really do separate Black people from the rest of the people in the world. One, and let's start with our hair. There it is. Okay, so go on.
But look, the number one insight and differentiator is for Black American people is our history.
Yes.
That is the one thing. And we are not a monolith. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I didn't say that. We are all not the same, but we are different. But we are taught in society and
Are you talking about Black Americans?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about Black Americans only when you say because of our history?
Yes, I'm talking about Black Americans.
Okay.
It is our history that gives us these characteristics and beliefs and behaviors that is often different from mainstream.
Yes.
I love that you talked about mainstream or white being the default. You should look a certain way, talk a certain way, walk a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
live a certain way, go to certain schools. And if you're in
That's right.
the default then is very damaging, because if you don't do those things, then you are seen as having less value.
That's right.
You're seen
Looked
as
down
having less
upon.
value. Absolutely, and looked down upon. So, but we in society and in marketing, we are taught to not talk about differences. People say it's rude. It makes people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about differences, it's an opportunity to learn.
Ah,
Different does not
yes.
mean deficient.
Yes.
It's an opportunity to learn. And so the dismantling of DEI and the demonizing and weaponization of DEI is absolutely insane. With nearly 50% of the population being Black and brown people, you are now going to demonize this segment when that's the growth opportunity. And the growth opportunity starts with our insights. You got to start with Black insights. Let me give you an example of why starting with Black. 20 years ago, I worked on a campaign for Procter Gamble with Burrell Advertising, and they wanted to test this father and son commercial, and it was no dialogue. The father was taking a nap with the baby on his chest. They both were clad in white T-shirts. So we tested it with white female head of households, and we tested it with Black female head of households. The white female head of households said, I get the message. Ty gets clothes clean, cute baby, got it. And every single group with the Black women, they went crazy. They said things like, because he had on a wedding band. They said, our men are good men. They marry us. Our good, they're good fathers. On and on. Oh my God, in every single group. And I learned from the brand team that commercial helped Tide achieve the highest return on investment of any brand. First, they ran it in Black media, and then they ran it in mainstream media, and it did extremely well. But what was interesting about that too?
So it humanized him.
Well, it did. It humanized it. It broke the stereotypes about absentee fathers and deadbeat dads for us.
Right.
But what it did for mainstream, because at that time, fathers and mothers in commercials or families, the father was always the butt of the joke. He was the jerk. He was the couldn't get things right. He didn't know how to raise the kids. But that commercial set a precedent of caring, caretaking fathers. Now, that was in probably 2003, 2005.
Yeah.
But Dove comes along and does this men's campaign, and they got the credit for setting the precedent. But it was set by us and Black, that Black advertising in 2005, not 2013, but Burrell Advertising. The commercial won a lot of awards, but they didn't get the credit for that. So our impact is strong when you start with Black, when you understand. One of the things I suggest that brands do is just flip the script. What's the stereotype? What are the lies that you were told? And then how do you flip that? How do you flip that? Because on the other side of the lie is the truth.
Right.
Is the truth. And when you build truth, you have trust. When you have trust, you can have loyal customers and a positive bottom line. It all works together. And that's what's important.
So let's role play, right? I want to be, I don't know, the brand manager at, let's say you use the Procter Gamble. Before the, remember when those young guys, I don't know who they were, but they came in and they said it shouldn't be Black advertisement and so on. So that was before the D&I breakdown.
Yeah, it was called Total Market.
Total Market. Okay, so before that, you've got to come in and convince me that you have to do X to sell to the Black market. What are the talking points you would have with me?
Well, kind of just what I said.
Okay.
Number one, one of the things that is not necessarily a motivator, but it's important to know, is our spending power. It's over $1 trillion spending power. This is after-tax disposable income. It's been a nice to know. Every year it keeps going up, but it doesn't seem to motivate brands. But when
unless you stop buying,
but when you
spending.
but when you ask the question, that's one of the things. The other thing is I talk about our influence. We, according to Cantor Research, in 2022, they came up with a number like 62% of Americans say that they are influenced by Black people.
Yeah.
I think they've done an update on that, and I think it's probably 70 something percent. Urban One recently did a study in 2024 on influence, and their number was 72% of people in the United States, mainstream people, say they are influenced by Black people. So we have that. And then we have all these examples of meeting, when you meet our needs, that Rick, when you look at Rick,
Yes.
resourceful, industrious, innovative, creative. When you meet our needs, you do meet the needs of others. Another example I would use is Rihanna and her makeup Fenty line. Now, Rihanna launched 40 shades of makeup at Sephora because she wanted to make sure, and this has happened to me and you too, Kai. We go to the store and our shade isn't
not there.
The lip liner's not there. The lipstick is not there. Then definitely not the makeup.
Right.
And so what Rihanna wanted to do is fill the need, and she launched it at retail.
Yeah.
And now everybody, when you go into Sephora or Ulta Beauty, you see more and more and more shades of makeup. That's because of Rihanna. When you get it right with Black people, you get it right with mainstream. When you meet our needs, when you understand what our needs are, because there are many gaps in terms of what we need. One of the questions, and you and I talked about, like, what about Black businesses? Like, what do they need to do, for example, to build trust? Are you familiar with the Black Foodies? They are
the group. Yeah,
the Black Foodies they're wonderful. They have these bus tours. They go to these restaurants, but it's this couple, and they go to all these restaurants and try these different foods. What's so interesting to me is, like, all of the foods are mostly soul food. It's the same thing. It's the chicken wings, it's the greens, whatever, and people make them differently. But there has not been a vegan or more healthy options. I think that's huge. That's a whole gap that we're missing. I mean, we have Soul Vegetarian here in Chicago, which I love, but they're still missing a gap. So when you meet our needs, when
Cafe Gratitude, there's a few of them.
When you come and meet our needs, it really is something that the rest of the world could use too. Those needs become met too. So you start with us because the trust breaks with us. It is always the broken trust started with us, and we are the largest group of people and the longest to have been discriminated against. So if you try to fix it with us, you will learn how to fix it with other segments as well.
So you've sat down with some very powerful men and women, and what are the kind of questions or statements they have shared with you?
Kai, they ask the same thing over and over again.
Okay.
How do I reach Black people?
Well, are they listening when you share with them?
What do Black people want to be called? That's the number one question that I get. Is it Black? Is it African American? And it is Black, by the way, because while all African Americans are Black by race, not all Black people are African Americans, because we have the Africans, and we have the Afro Latinos, or the Black that want to stay connected with their country, and they don't want the African American label. They like the Black American label. And Black,
because they're seen differently and treated differently.
And Black is another thing I want. Well, and maybe it's not the right time. It's anyway. That's something.
We'll come back.
We'll come back to
your
that.
book.
Yeah.
Oh, you finished with that question?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the point is, the most powerful people that I sit down and talk with, and I've worked with just about every brand that you can think of that we use. A lot of the brands from Procter and Gamble, Oil of Olay, Pantene,
You mentioned
Crest
Dove
and
earlier. Who are
Tide.
they? Who are they?
Dove is Unilever.
Oh,
I've worked
Unilever.
with them. They have Noxzema and they have Vaseline. And I mean, the liquor brands, we have worked on those. All of that, though, has gone away since the dismantling of DEI. But it's always the same questions. How do we reach Black people? And they want. I think they want to hear something different. I think people believe. Let me not say that. It's a lot of little things, and the biggest ideas are really a lot of little things. It's not, people keep waiting for the big ideas. If you want to understand Black people, you have to do research with us. You have to understand us. If you want to reach us, you have to make sure that people are seen and understood. It's really simple. Who is it? Jim Collins. What did he wrote in his book? Oh my God, From Good to Great, about the big ideas or simple ideas. I'm paraphrasing him, and I absolutely love that. And people keep looking for something big and great to engage Black people, and it's really something simple. One of the number one engagement practices that you could do is make sure that Black people are respected. We don't, again, everybody wants to be respected, but because of our history, we place a value on being respected. That's why those women went crazy in that Tide focus group, because they talked about being respected over and over again. And so it doesn't mean that your communications all have to be kumbaya. You can have funny, you can have edgy, but you got to put some, who said that? Put some respect on it. Who said that?
I don't remember.
I can't remember the rapper who said that. But he talked, and it's one of my books, but he talked about putting some respect on it.
Yeah, always. So let's just step back a little bit, not too far. So that we can get to trust agent. So when you began, what did you just call yourself a consultant to these VIPs?
Oh, you mean when I first started doing research?
Well, when you started talking to the various companies about.
Well, I was doing focus groups as a researcher.
Right.
And I was not focused on just doing Black research. I would go and knock on the doors and talk to people, wanting to talk to people and pitch to get business. And I was told one too many times, we'll call you when we have something Black. And I was like, are you talking to me? So back in the day, I couldn't get any general market work. They didn't feel like a Black person could talk to white people in a focus group setting. They felt like white people could talk to Black people, but a Black person couldn't talk to them. And so I couldn't get any work. But thank goodness for the Burrells and the late Barbara Proctor and the Soft Sheens, who allowed me to practice my craft. And in these focus groups, I'm hearing Black people tell their story. We were doing what's called exploratory research. We were testing advertising, but we're having these conversations about people in your life. What are your dreams? What are your beliefs? What is it that you want for yourself? And as they told the stories, what they were saying was not in alignment with what the advertisers were creating to reach them. And that made me crazy. So I started going to these multicultural conferences and saw there was nobody talking about Black people, or there were white people talking about Black people very generally, and not talking about the why around our beliefs and behavior. And that's when I started writing the books. The first one was What's Black About It, because we didn't have a Black Insights book. And it started because years ago, people, when they were exiting the room, they were like, what is this? Are they trying to steal our ideas again? And I was like, oh my God. So you invite them to tell the truth.
So there's the fear
there's
and the
fear.
questioning. That's on that side, right?
So you invite your respondents to tell the truth. But you make sure it's not a gripe session.
Right.
But they have to tell their stories. So these respondents talk about their treatment in terms of how they're treated in the healthcare industry. We know it's a different treatment. We're not treated the same. So you write up the report and you talk about that. This was one of the insights that came out. And the client was like, well, let's not say that.
See?
We don't want to.
Protecting the interest.
We don't want to upset the client. So let's not say that or tone that down a bit. So again, that's not the entire story. So what people are missing is the opportunities and the possibilities with Black and brown people, because we are different and not
you just expand what you're doing, your horizons, and open up whole new markets.
It's a huge opportunity. It's a terrible business decision to not include us.
Yeah, I want to go back to the whole healthcare industry and what that's about, and also about us as a people and why we hold back and we don't tell the whole stories. I remember going to see my great grandmother, and she was had just turned. She was in the hospital, had gallstones removed, whatever, and we had come there to celebrate her birthday, and as you know, life would have it, she ended up being in a hospital, but we're all around. They allowed us to all come into the room and see her, whatever. But the thing that struck me, because I hadn't thought about it until I realized what my great-grandmother did, she wouldn't take her pills that what the nurses bring in. They would put them under the mattress, and they would always pass it on. In that instance, she would tell her daughters, right? And granddaughters to take the pills so the nurse wouldn't find it or whatever. And my mother did the same thing, and her sister, and guess what? So do I. And it's like, why? I don't even know why, but
So
but
you're saying
they wouldn't take the medicine. They didn't trust them. They don't trust those doctors. They don't trust.
They have reason to not.
But that's what I'm saying. And then it goes further when you're talking about things. Then they don't. I was just reading in one of the historical documents how we didn't want to share that aspect of pain. Okay, let's just say, and I'm not talking about physical. I'm just talking about your treatment with the next generation, because we didn't want them to be fearful. That we wanted them to walk, into a new way of thinking. So I'm just, listening to you talk about the people coming out of your research sessions and, not wanting to talk about something or share. I was just wondering.
The reason why they didn't tell the whole truth, Black people, it was because of the research environment. It's very sterile. They are typically recruited because when we conduct focus groups, you're recruiting who you want. You're recruiting your target. So you're recruiting who we want to talk to and screening out who we don't want to talk to. And there's a whole, it's a whole process with that, and it's very expensive. So you hire these companies and they recruit the people, but it's a very sterile. The people that most likely are recruiting Black people don't look like that. When they come to the focus group facility or even virtually, they're talking to people and greeted by people who don't look like them. They've participated in enough focus groups to know that they're being observed, and they believe they're being observed by people who don't look like them. So they are tempering their answers because this is a white environment and I'm not going there. So I invite them to go there. I want you to tell your story.
But I think it's a missed opportunity on the part of, major marketing companies, et cetera, because why don't they see that as just targeted marketing towards this group? Like cars, I'm going to sell sports cars to sports enthusiasts, or I'm going to sell such and such, the luxury, to this particular group, because in their research, they know that the older gentlemen, they want the long,
Well, they
smooth
do
ride.
talk, but
But what I'm saying is, why don't they just put black, brown, all of those are just targeted marketing?
Well, what they do now is just put everybody together. And it's targeted marketing. The target is luxury car owners. That's the target. Not understanding that there's different reasons why we buy, mainly consciously or not. I mean, we buy because we can or we want to, but a lot of it is badge value for us to, because when we, again, when we walk out of our dwelling, the stereotype begins.
Right.
And we're trying to counter that. If they understood that, they would have a message to us that would be uplifting. That uplifting message could actually reach other people, and they just don't get it. But they don't understand the whys behind our beliefs and behaviors. So now what they're doing is they are really demonizing us. One of the words that's being demonized is woke.
Oh, yeah.
Woke is a term that was developed by Black people. It goes back as far as the 20s and the 30s. We came up with the word woke. And woke then, as it is now, is about using your voice to speak out against the injustices that are done against the Black community. That was the original message. And so we see women and the LGBTQ plus using woke too. What the Republican Party has done has flipped that woke, made a lie, and is calling it anti-white, anti-flag, and anti-American. And so now that has been the pervasive narrative about woke. And I love AI. I love artificial intelligence. I love it. It helps me polish my, polish some of my writings. I don't have it write the entire article.
Yeah, but you got to begin with a certain foundation. That's why you love it.
It gives me ideas. But because of my algorithm, I am going to get the right definition of woke. Right. What about the people in Florida?
Right.
Are they going to get Ron DeSantis' definition, which is anti-white, anti-flag? And so that's one of the dangers of AI and being not inclusive of other cultures. I mean, we're starting to, put more information in, but that's one of the things that you do. And I definitely wrote about.
So Pepper, ask AI what you should be doing now. But before you do that, I want to ask you, how have you already, interjected or inserted yourself into the world that you live in to make a living?
Well, one of the things that I, with being a trust steward, I started writing articles. On LinkedIn, I comment and use my trust lens to comment. I recently wrote an article about the importance of having truth tellers. And I talked about Elizabeth Catlett, a Black artist. Her work was recently at the Art Institute. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
And Faith Ringo, Black artist, and Bob Marley. All three of them have passed away. But they use their art, they use their creativity to advocate for justice.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do the same thing with my research. So I talked about them in this article as being some of the original truth tellers, because that's exactly what they were doing, and how we need more truth tellers in marketing and advertising. Researchers should be truth tellers. We should not report the truth that we are getting from our studies to our clients. We should not be altering that to make them feel comfortable. So you have to have courage to tell the truth today. So that's one of the things that I'm doing, is writing articles. I wrote why Black people, were not marching in mass. So I write things about trust and truth now. And then I am putting myself out there to speak at conferences or companies about truth, because there is broken trust inside and outside of companies. And so I have a workshop that we can do to help build more trust so that clients, again, can see people clearly, internally and externally. I am so grateful for this opportunity to have this discussion with you, because this helps get the trust message out as well.
So last question, and I'm sure there'll be a few that are associated with that, but what would you say, or what do you want to say to someone who's listening, who's thinking that I think I want to follow in her footsteps and make it my profession? What do you suggest?
So, when I came along, you could not get a degree in research. And I think you can now. You can get a degree, you can get a master's degree, definitely in research, because that's a way to go to be a strategist. So a researcher, I am observing, I'm collecting information, I am writing reports, I am identifying what the insights are, and presenting that to the client in a PowerPoint presentation in a room, and this is our findings. But a strategist does so much more. They go deeper and broader with the insights. And a strategist that works at an agency, for example, they are responsible for writing the creative strategy for the creative team. So they will bring the target to life. This is Darnell. He's a UPS driver, and his wife is Carla, and she's a kindergarten teacher, and this is their beliefs, and this is their want. This is why they want to buy the Lexus. This is why it's important to them. It's because of their history. This is da-da-da-da-da. They save their money. They da-da-da-da-da. And so you identify, first of all, you're presented with the client's marketing problem. So everything of your target and who they are and who you want to talk to, you're helping them identify the target, making sure they have the right ones, because it's not just about age, demographics. It's about psychographics too, people's beliefs and behavior. So you get that, you do your research, and then the strategist starts everything that you have done in your life as a strategist. You use that to help dissect, bring back together, and present insights to the client. And that's why the strategist at an agency is responsible for writing the strategy for the creative team. And this is something, it's taken years for the advertising industry to get here, because as researchers, even back in the 90s, they wanted us to conduct research, give them the report, and then go away. We've got the insights. We could tell you so much more about your target. And they finally figured that out when the people from Europe came and designated research people as account planners, and then it started growing from there.
So is that what you did when you were at J. Walter Thompson?
No, at J. Walter Thompson, I was in the office administration planning. I loved it, but I was doing research. I had a
You were researching independently on your own.
Well, no, let me tell you, we were responsible for the running of the 600-person office.
Okay.
And so we had construction, we're buying furniture, we're working with the interior designers and the architects. I went and interviewed every department head, and tell me your wildest, your biggest dreams in terms of your workspace. What do you want that to feel like? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to do for your people? And I would take those insights back to the interior designer. So I was doing research, and I discovered I loved it. And they sent me to Northwestern to the 4A's program, and I just wanted to stay in research. So I applied for the research training program and didn't get in. And so a couple of Black guys, there were 600 people, there were only 10 Black professionals. So a couple of the Black professionals left. They went to other companies, and they came and said, "We heard that you're doing research. I wasn't. They heard that you like doing research. I got a research project for you. And that's how it started. I
Wow.
stumbled into it.
Mm-hmm.
Young people don't have to do that today. You do have to have a sense of curiosity. It's just not going to work if you don't. I wonder how they got this color flower and the shadows. And I wonder how they put this here. I wonder why. Wonderment is going to help you be a great researcher.
And it's so
wonderment.
challenging though, because now AI can tell you everything.
They can't tell you everything.
Well, the assumption is.
The assumption is, but you still have to have the human quality.
I agree.
I use AI a lot, but I look at it and I use it as a coach.
Yes.
And I will go back and say, thank you for this.
Right.
But this is a lot of blah, 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 blah. This is not my voice. You have not addressed it. You've painted this picture. You put some paint on it, but I don't know what's underneath. Yeah. So let's try this again. Yeah. And then I will give it some more information. They will use words. I mean, and I will get excited when they tweak my, some of my articles or some of the things that I'm doing. But I've learned to sleep on it, come back the next day or go for a walk. And I see things. I was like, this word is the wrong word. Yeah. This is the wrong word. So I challenge it constantly.
Yeah. You just touched on one of my little hot points. In this past summer, we had 4 interns, high school graduates. They were honor students and AP on their way to college. And one of their daily assignments was to learn a new word.
Oh, wow.
They had to bring it to the table. They had to.
That's great.
Yes, and they would share with each other. They had to write sentences. And then they had to incorporate all of the words they learned that day into a paragraph or something we would do. And to my surprise, they said they really loved it. And so I just recommended to them, continue to do that. Learn a new word every day for yourself, because I don't know if it's taught anymore, but vocabulary is so important in our ability to really communicate. Because, this word is not going to fit for every emotion, for every expression or the experience or whatever you're feeling. I might get it if you say, I'm sad, but you're not necessarily really sad, Maybe you've been impacted by something that has really affected your emotional content. It just goes on and on. So
wonderful.
What is it? But I just think what I'm saying is, so when they're using AI now, there's a huge void because they're not able to question. Like you said, no, this is the wrong word.
And one of the things that I do after they polish, an article or something, I go back and look if I can defend that the way they're saying it in my words. And I was like, I can't defend this.
There you go.
Because I look at that article and imagine someone taking it apart and asking me questions about every sentence or paragraph. What did you mean by this? Instead of just putting it out there to people, I want to make sure that I can defend it. And if I can't defend it, then I challenge it, or I just change it myself. But I love the idea of word building. That is going to be absolutely critical for young people as we continue to walk into this AI technology. That is absolutely huge. I love that. I love that for myself.
I used to make that an assignment for my staff in journalism. Everybody had to learn a new word. Just because we're writing every day, you need to do that.
That's right.
But how would you advise anyone at this point in time? I'm saying young people, but anyone who's interested in research, what are you telling them to do? What would you tell them to do to prepare for that? And then we'll close out our session.
I do think you have to have good communication skills, oral and written. It has to be decent. You have to feel comfortable talking to people.
Okay.
So that's part of preparing. Having a good vocabulary, using Kai's recommendation would absolutely help, and being able to, write decently. The second thing is to, identify, asking yourself, do am I inquisitive enough? Do I have that enough? Is it? It has to be a passion, because it
Passion.
has to be a
Look it up.
passion because because if you don't have your, if you're working on a research project and it's like this, there's something missing here. For example, we did some focus groups, but there's something missing here. You may have to go back and look at the transcripts or look at the tapes, and a lot of people don't want to do that.
Okay.
But you have to be one that is comfortable with digging, digging, digging to find the truth. You have to be a truth teller and a truth seeker. And then from an academic standpoint, you can, take some journalism classes, take some writing classes, major in English, or there is a book called the Green Book. It's a Green Book of Market Research Companies. You could look through that. You could look at different big brands that have research departments to understand how you might navigate and be able to get in there. But I just think it starts with your passion, an inquisitive mind that you absolutely, really sincerely care about why. You are answering the why question and you have passion about that. Maybe that's the most important thing.
That's wonderful.
It's passion around the why.
So Pepper Miller, thank you for coming in today and sharing your insight and your wisdom and providing information for our listening audience.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.